I just also wanted to echo my appreciation to MXD for hosting this wonderful event today and for the opportunity to bring all of us together and talk about the problems that we're all facing in manufacturing and talk about solutions. So I wanted to thank you for hosting today, for the wonderful food, and for making today possible. Thank you so much. Let's give a hand to MXD. I'm grateful for the opportunity to continue to talk to Paul, and please, if you have follow-on questions for him, feel free to jump in at any time. To my left, we have Edwina Fitzmaurice. I apologize. Would you like to introduce yourself? That would probably be easiest.
Well, hi everybody, it's great to be here. I'm the Global Head of Innovation around our new technologies at EY, so I bring all of those to market, which would include things like Metaverse Labs, would include our AI work that we're doing, things like quantum computing and things like that. So delighted to be here. Hope you got to see some of our exhibitions outside earlier.
Fantastic, thank you. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Okay, we have Michael Calasuno.
I got my own.
Oh, you're mic'd up, all right.
Hi, everyone.
With Northrop Grumman.
Mike Calasuno, Northrop Grumman, Manager of Digital Manufacturing Systems for the aeronautics sector. A little bit about me is I was fixing my washing machine this weekend, and I used YouTube instead of augmented reality to fix it, and you can see what happened. We talked about driving quality, first-time quality there, and here's a great example. So, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. So I do have questions for each of you individually, but please feel free to jump in anytime if you want to follow on and provide your own answer to any question. And then also I'll open it up to the group. If you have questions, please feel free to let us know and jump in at any time. We'd love to keep this as interactive as possible. So Mike, I'm going to pick on you, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So I had a question. With all of the hype around AR and the devices, I was thinking back to, somebody mentioned the Facebook Oculus, was it the Oculus Quest? And all of the hype I know that my kids had about that device when it first came out, and now it's sitting on the shelf collecting dust. So I was just curious, how do you assess the current state of AR technology in terms of the adoption curve versus hype cycle? Where are we?
Yeah, I may have a different perspective than most, and I definitely haven't been doing this for 18 years, Paul. But I think this whole day has been about productivity. How can we get to being productive with augmented reality and XR and the metaverse? How can we not only deploy it, but integrate it with our business systems and our data pipelines? If we're going to use the Gartner hype cycle, we're pretty far along. We had the excitement, we had the disillusionment, we've gone from device to device to device, but I think we're at a point where now adoption is where we are and business value is where we're going.
Great, thank you. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I was going to add briefly, I would agree completely because, a couple of years ago, AR was, everyone was just, it was the hot thing, and in Boeing and I'm sure other companies, everyone was all about it. It definitely has been a drop-off in the excitement, I sense anyway. But that's good because that means we're moving further along. And now we've got to get on that path to actually realizing value. It's not about excitement, it's about value. So now we've got to push our way back. We're making progress, I think, but we've got some way to go to get back up to the full value they can offer.
Fantastic, thank you. Edwina, you work with Ernst & Young, EY. And I know that EY has gone all in using AR and VR for the purpose of recruitment and onboarding and training. How well has that been received?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're obviously hearing today all about AR and VR in manufacturing, and you're all from those organizations. We do a lot of work in manufacturing as well. But what I thought I might share with you is more a story around how we're using it in the rest of the business. So you also all have finance groups and back office groups, and other people who are not out on the floor. So we've put together a platform which we call the Weavers, and we basically built it on Unity and Unreal, and we recruit about 3,000 interns every summer, out of college, and we put them through training programs. So we put them into this environment that we built for them, and we gave them project work to do. So, starting with the project, collaboration spaces, We gave them products to build inside of this environment. We put learning in place, and then we gamified the whole thing because it's a game. Now, these are all, juniors from college, right? They're gamers. This is a hard crowd. This is a tough crowd to put them into an environment, I can tell you. And they're very good at giving us feedback. So the feedback was, right, you can imagine, right? You think they're actually coming for a job. You think they'd be nice to us, right? No. No. They give it to us straight. But actually the feedback was great. So what they really liked about it was that, it was very different, something they hadn't experienced before. We didn't give them the glasses. It was all done through their phones or through the laptops, or through the iPads, whatever it was. They could play with each other. They could talk to each other. It was all gamified. It was all timed. Okay, that we had leaderboards, and we had, so we wanted them to do, say, monitoring a certain task, and we said, if you don't do it, all of these plants that you planted earlier, these products and projects you were doing are going to die. So they had to kind of gamify the whole thing. Went really, really well. We then sort of also took this onto campus, and we scanned all of our offices, every one of our offices. So let's say we're at the University of Chicago, and we said, you want to see what it's like to work at EY? You want to go to the Chicago office? So we would put them into the headsets. And we could say, you want to go to the Paris office? Do you want to go to Abu Dhabi? Have a look around. And we also put AI agents, like AI, into the environment to talk to them as well. So we actually created avatars that were chatting to them. And they could talk to them what's it like to work at EY, and they could talk to each other. And that got a massive reaction. So we were getting like 90% plus satisfaction ratings out of all of that. And what that's taught us is we're actually now rolling this out to everybody else at EY. So we're putting it into our onboarding processes. We have people, if you actually apply for a job at EY now, you can actually go through some of these experiences. You can talk to the avatars. And we're putting even, people who aren't just out of college, so people who are in a different demographic, getting promotions and things like that. It's been really popular. And we like to do things at scale. Like if it doesn't work for thousands of people, we kind of don't do it. So it has to work globally. It has to work on all of the devices everywhere in the world. It has to work for thousands of people at the same time. And we're getting just a great reaction to it. We have people queuing around the corner to actually do this on campus. And that's important to us because we're a talent organization. So we're very interested in kind of the human experience around all of this. So it's been great. So far, so good, and more to come.
It sounds very exciting. Virginie, I'm so glad to share the stage with you again. Thank you so much for joining us up here this afternoon. It was great listening to you this morning. How do you see AR, VR technologies? I mean, you shared the future of the metaverse, but I'm curious, in your environment with Siemens, particularly in the areas of workforce training and remote collaboration and operational efficiency, where do you see AR and VR playing a piece in that?
You mean as a technology?
Yes.
This morning I talked about the industrial metaverse as a vision, and you have seen it on board a lot of technologies inside. That's why AR, VR devices is one of the technologies needed to go into the metaverse. I would say it's a tool. It's not necessarily the way you interact, because you can interact with a phone or a computer, a tablet. That's why AR, VR is one of the ways to interact with industrial metaverse. And I totally agree with both of you that there are ups and downs, announcement, disillusion, expectations. I think it's a normal way of any innovation, just to wait a little bit to mature, to wait for more mature devices. And in waiting for that, we have to be agnostic and open enough to accept this variation of performance and expectation. And I think the most important is maybe to be prepared in the mindset in terms of adoption. We know that it will come at a point very strong and mature, and that's why we have to prepare our tools, our way to work. And that's why, this is how I see the technology today.
Thank you. Paul, I was curious, what are the biggest challenges or limitations of current AI and augmented reality technologies in your perspective? And what advancements are needed to overcome these challenges for broader adoption?
Was it AI or AR? I didn't quite hear you.
AI.
AI. Well, the big thing for us is going to be so I mentioned our use case initially for like recognizing parts in installed locations, is going to be the reliance of that and the rate of detection. But then beyond that, sort of hinting at my question to the Scope Northrop team was, okay, if we're using AI to do something, how are we going to accredit that? How are we going to make sure that whatever AI is telling us, whether it's generating work instruction or it's telling us a part is installed correctly or not, when will we get to the point where we can actually just trust that and not verify it with a human? Because especially in the aircraft industry, it's heavily regulated. FAA on the commercial side, we are required to accredit all of our systems and prove things are doing what we think they are doing and not something else. And in the world of AI, I struggle with how we're going to get there. I'm sure we will. And there's a whole team of, there's a whole activity, whole area of people researching how do you accredit AI systems. But at the moment, I think that's a bit of a gap. That's a challenge for anyone who's trying to use, AI in this kind of way.
I'd like to open that up. Do any of you have other challenges?
I think the biggest challenge for us and any organization is how good is our upstream data. When you talk about the metaverse, AR, VR is just a visualization tool of the work we've done before we got to the visualization. So the simulations, the metaverse, how well we do our upfront work with our partners and our engineering teams, hearing 10 systems, 10 different data systems you're pulling from, it's not lost on me that we reach in many different places to get many different sources of data. And how do you verify that data, which is something we're already doing, and then is it just one more step for us to validate that AI model? And that's the path we see for our solution.
Yeah, I might jump in on this one because, EY is, we've a lot of technology people. We've 6,500 people in the group that I'm in. But we actually also have an audit practice, right? We are auditors. And one of the most incredible things that I'm enjoying at the moment is having our auditors over working with us. So we brought the audit team into the tech teams working with us. And so what we're actually putting together is a certification process for all of the AI. So we have quite big, not just kind of regular AI teams, but we are building AI agents. I don't know if you're all into the intelligent agents piece. So we have agentic teams now working kind of in full flight. So human team is working with AI. We've got the orchestration layer, the orchestrators handing out the work. We have the functional agents doing the different work, QA agents. We have auditing agents in the work, working sort of humans in the loop, humans on the loop, and actually getting the quality right and being able. So you have to audit the data, you have to audit the algorithms, you have to audit the actual LLMs themselves, the inputs and the outputs. I have to say, it's a bit of a privilege having that we can actually put a stamp on things and say that is audit ready and kind of we can certify it. So I think that you mentioned that earlier, I think, Paul, about certification. I think it's a big thing. And I think when you can do that, it kind of creates trust, right? So we're, again, measure everything. We measure human. The reason I keep talking about humans, by the way, it's because we have a model that we measure, which we call HPQR, human productivity, quality, and risk. And if it isn't hitting it out of the park on all four, we don't think it's good technology. We just don't like it. And and so we put a kind of a whole value scorecard together around that actually ties the numbers back to the financial statements of an organization. Because again, we deal a lot with CFOs and people who want to see the numbers, and they're spending a lot of money on tech, and they want to measure the value. And so we've kind of gone very hard on hard metrics around the value of the technology. So that's kind of where we're coming at from that. But we have a lot of financial people in EY, so it's kind of useful to be able to combine that together. So something I'm happy to share that with folks if anybody's interested.
Fantastic, thank you. This question's for the whole panel. How can manufacturers balance the push for higher efficiency with the need for sustainability, and what role do digital twins and real-time data analytics play in achieving this balance? Yeah, please.
Yeah, about the sustainability. I think there are plenty of examples where you see digitalization playing for sustainability and together with efficiency. And by the way, it's not against. You have different examples along the life cycle. At the very beginning, when you do design and you experiment some new shapes and or new machines, like performance, and you decide the final version, is without consuming any material resources. Then you decide to go to prototype, and because you are sure that it's almost what we want to do. That's why you have already saved a lot of resource in terms of efficiency and material. And when you operate a factory or a machine in the best, most efficient way you can, because you know, based on the digital twin, that you have the best way to do it, you save a lot of energy. You have seen this morning, we can save 50% of energy on the factory level, because we just know the data, we know how to predict, and then we tune it accordingly. That's why, for me, the digitalization and the digital twin in particular is really a tool that is promoting sustainability just by saving resources and optimizing in the best way. There are plenty of examples, just mentioning holistically what some of them. Yeah.
So, Paul, I think I heard you changed your software and you've changed your hardware multiple times.
Yes.
So, sustainability to me is just about managing change. Configuration management and understanding that software will evolve, hardware will evolve. It's about continuing to provide value as you continue to evolve with it, right? If we were talking a couple of years ago, we wouldn't be talking about AI in AR and in XR. So we are evolving with what's coming up, and we just have to bake that in when we do our deployments and understand that just like IT, there is a refresh cycle and there's a development and growth curve that we have to understand and deploy.
I was going to say that actually led right into my next question. As AR technology advances, how do you envision the future user base in manufacturing evolving? I'll just open that up to anybody who thought to.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
You have a 16-year-old, right, Melissa?
I do.
That's the future user base. People who've grown up with the technology, and Edwina, I think that's why you've embraced it for all of your interns, is because that speaks to them in a way PowerPoint doesn't. I don't know how to harness that. My headshot has a lot less gray hairs than I do now. But as I grow older, I realize I'm not the main target for XR. And we talked about the gray wave, that was the first presentation of the year, or of the day. And we're still trying to harness that, especially in our industries of aerospace, where it is more pronounced than most.
Yeah.
You have to admit I'm a little bit balanced between, you said I'm not the best candidate to do that, but I also think the XR technologies is a way to democratize also complex systems. Because today we have a software with many options, and you need to be an expert to manage things in the software. With augmented reality or virtual reality, you are going to onboard people who are not necessarily educated or expert in such a system, but they have their own background. That's why, for me, it's a meeting point between democratizing a complex system to people who are bringing another value in the workforce, and not necessarily digital experts or PhDs in digital experience. That's why I think if we design well the XR devices, it should be also a tool for us to onboard as many people as we can in our journey, because we need workforce.
Edwina, I wanted to ask you a follow-on question. We were talking about users, and I know EY just recently participated in South by Southwest, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the studies that EY conducted with neurodiverse workers and the success that EY has seen there.
Yeah, and as I mentioned to you, you're all wondering why I'm talking about this, but the idea of the human experience, I think, is just really important. And I think I'm very bullish about AR, VR, by the way. I mean, I think it's actually great that the hype has gone out of it, because all the people who were jumping the hype and actually didn't know what they were talking about are gone off to AI, and all of us who are interested are left behind, right? Who are actually doing the work. So that's kind of good. No, I'm actually bullish about it, because so we've been watching. So I think the future of work is going to be, AI is going to take over many, many things. Okay, we are all going to have a very different experience with AI, particularly if you see what's going on with the agentic workforce and how that will happen. So a few years ago, we started working with artists and musicians to talk about, well, what happens next, right? Because people say, we're all going to become creative. Okay, so are we? What is creativity? Like, who knows that? So we brought in, we've people working with us, with our tech teams, from the artist and music community, and it's just fascinating to work with them. I would encourage you, if you get a chance, to just diversify your teams and bring in completely different people. So they talk to us about what does it mean to be the essence of humanity, and they often show us new ways of thinking and working about things. So we built a VR environment, a whole metaverse environment with one of the artists who, she said, don't put more stuff in, take things out, right? So we took out everything except she said she wanted to create a world which was only informed by significant black leaders thinking, poetry, writing. So we created this world, we created these avatars, we launched it at South by Southwest, and the place exploded. I mean, we have queues around the corner. Again, they had to open the doors at South by Southwest to the public because there was such interest in this experience, and we created in a complete room. People could come in and talk to these avatars. And what it was taking away something. It was just an experience of talking to poetry or talking to literature from a particular demographic. Amazing. We also did work with another musician. He created a digital twin he's a beatboxer. I didn't know what beatboxing was, but it's the thing that you do with your throat. It's a kind of a clicking thing.
You got an
I'm
example
very
for
uncool
us?
about these things. Sorry. Anyway, it was brilliant. He's amazing. He's incredibly famous and he's wonderful. His name is Reeps One, but he created a digital twin of his voice, and he showed us what digital twins looks like when you're being creative with a twin of yourself. And the music that he could create, again, we ran that out actually all over the place, and that took off as well. So that was great. And then the last thing I just said, the neurodiverse community, we're a big neurodiverse community in EY. About 50% of Gen Z identifies neurodiverse, and that's expected to go to about 70% with Gen Alpha, which is the generation next, the younger generation. About 1 in 5 people in the world are neurodiverse. So we did an exercise with 300 people across 17 companies and asked them how they're experiencing AI and the metaverse, right? Those joint experiences to say, because they're more sensitive to reality, and we're kind of trying, what can we learn from this community? And so what we learned was a big reduction in stress, a big reduction in anxiety, improvement in productivity, an improvement to be able to participate in things. And we got 90% scores on that, 90% from this community. Very high scores, ability to thrive, 75%. Where it didn't quite work was they didn't feel that they had better acceptance from people. They didn't feel more accepted, or didn't feel that they had greater, zest and energy around the people around them, okay? But in terms of their own day-to-day experience and what they were doing, and their productivity went through the roof. So I think that's good. I mean, I really believe that AI and metaverse is very productive. It's good for productivity, it's good for quality, it's good for risk, and I think it's a great human experience if you get it right. But you have to do the work to kind of understand how to put those experiences together. So I'm bullish about it anyway.
When we say, I just want to add one thing, when we say it's good for quality, I totally agree, obviously. I think it's a balancing act, because I always sometimes struggle internally when I think about this. If we had this perfect AR system that guided everyone how to do exactly what to do and they didn't even have to think about it, that wouldn't lead to sort of satisfying work
Correct.
to the person. And I think that, over time, from the company perspective, that might be ideal, because you can just swap this person with that person, they both produce the same quality. But people don't want that kind of work. People want to be masters of their craft. And so I struggle with that, because we know it improves quality, but at the same time, we don't want it to be overburdening so that people don't have to think anymore. So,
and that's actually, I think that's a perfect point. I mean, that's actually what we saw with the interns as well. Unless we gamified it, it was super boring. They just wouldn't do it. Here's some training, yawn. It's a game, it's competition. You have to do these challenges to learn, and they were into it. And I think that's the human condition. We like to work, we like challenge. We don't like to be handed things on a plate. So there was something really interesting.
So we have to make the
that.
factory a game.
No, but maybe. It's like a quest or a challenge or something that gives people something to work towards.
Yeah.
That's why I guess we do these experiments to learn.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm trying to keep an eye on the clock, so if you have questions, I'm going to turn the time over to you momentarily, but I just had a couple last questions for each of our panelists. Paul, I'm curious about the lessons learned through your process. You've been working on this for many years. Looking back, what would you do differently? Is there something else that a path that you would have liked to explore that you didn't get the opportunity to? What were some of the maybe the things that didn't go right that you have learned from?
Yeah, definitely. I would have much preferred to focus more on fewer use cases and fewer places of trying to do this. The problem we've had is we had some really good successes early on. We actually had our CEO at the time come and meet with us, and he was bringing the board of directors through regularly to see demos of our technology, and we just got so much internal sort of attention. Everyone wanted it. And so then we were being pulled in 10 different directions, and we tried to do all that, and I sort of showed some of it, and we were sort of successful, but some cases we weren't because we couldn't devote the time or the attention to making something a success, and those really hurt the reputation. When you fail at something, everyone thinks, oh, that AR thing, we tried it and that didn't work, and it wasn't because it didn't work, it's because we couldn't support it. So I would have really loved to have just picked one, just knocked it out the park, nailed it, solved every problem they had, and make sure everything was flawless before I moved on to something else. And I never got the opportunity to do that.
Thank you. Virginie, I'm curious about your research at Princeton, and I didn't know if you wanted to share anything about what you're working on currently or what's coming down the pipe or what the future holds for your research. But I was wondering if you would mind expounding upon that.
So, as I said this morning, I said I come from Princeton, New Jersey. We have a research lab here. It's the research lab of cement in the US because it's a very spread out research entity around the world. That's why we represent the American hub for cements. What we do in this office is we have different labs where we can experience different innovations with students, with customers. We can co-create with customers. What we do, there are different components because you have seen Siemens is a provider a lot of solutions about automation. That's why there is a future of automation lab where there are little robots and conveyors, and it's like a living lab where we play with the toys. There is a digital twin lab where we can visualize some digital twin, and my ambition is to have such experience of immersion to propose to our visitors. We have also a solar panel grid connected to the building. That's why it's a lab in terms of energy management. We can demonstrate and we can work on innovation. And there are also AI lab experience. We can just to show you that it's a place where we have cool stuff to show, but we have also experimentation. And of course, as any research entity, we don't work alone. Huh? We activate all our network in the US, the universities. We are lucky having the best universities available to work with us. We have a lot of master agreement with them. And we leverage also some federal funding projects with different agencies to work with national labs, with customers, with other partners. And MXD is a place, an important place for us to leverage this ecosystem and of partners. So just in few words, what we do. Feel free to contact me if you want to know more.
Fantastic, thank you. Just to pull it back a little bit to manufacturing, Mike, how do you see the integration of augmented reality and digital and additive manufacturing transforming the production process, particularly in terms of design, accuracy, speed, and customization?
Well, Paul touched on it with his data. The quality is the most interesting part. We talked quality of life, which was a really interesting take on the definition of quality from an EY perspective, and I really appreciated that. But the first time quality for aerospace applications is what we drive for. And that is where, no matter what process we are using XR for, that is what we go for. Whether it's upstream in a simulation before we ever get to the physical product, or when we're on the physical product, or when we're maintaining it 30 years later. That first-time quality and that repeatability of the process is where the value will always be in a manufacturing application and a sustainment application. And as we continue to develop more capabilities like AI, it'll be easier to achieve that, and there'll be more low-hanging fruit for us to reach for.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. In the interest of time, I am now going to open up the floor to any questions to our panelists. Are you still with me? Are you awake? All right, we have one right here on the front.
Thank you all for your insights. The representation here is mostly companies with, or organizations with lots of time and lots of money. And given that there's a new hype cycle now with AI dominating everyone's consciousness and people become either paralyzed by possibility or chase too many things at the same time, I would love to hear from you guys who've had the time to look at this stuff. What would you advise someone who couldn't take all the time you've already spent to say, here's where the highest value lies today in AR or AR with AI? Quality control sounded like one that Boeing would say, but I'm just interested in your opinion across the panel.
Yeah, for like a small manufacturer, you mean someone who doesn't have the resources to sort of do it? Yeah.
Someone who can't just
idea
ache forever.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. So I showed these complicated backends, right? And that's a whole team of software engineers. But there's a lot you can do. Just by you can use off-the-shelf solutions quite cheaply. I think there are even free solutions. And if you're not so worried about 100 different aircraft configurations that you're trying to deal with, you're manufacturing a much smaller product or something, you can actually get a lot of value out of the quality side of it. Like today, just on an iPhone app, you can manually load in some data, and you'll realize value right there. I do think there is even inside, like you said, I forgot the term you used, blinded by possibility or something, or the term you used. That happens a lot because we're always being pushed to do the next thing and the next thing, and I'm like, well, hold on a second, we haven't finished the last thing. Can we finish that first? And that happens all the time. So that's a struggle even for us.
I don't know what to answer to you specifically, but I would encourage everybody who want to know is try and learn. I don't know exactly what is the problem you are going to, that is most important for you. We have seen this morning and even this afternoon a large scope of values, different level, quality, time, cost, and it really depends on what is the most important or urgent things to solve for you, and that's why just try and learn and make your mind very quickly, and then when you are sure about this, you can engage more money and more time to build up a scalable solution. Today, we can be lost in these vast opportunities and technologies. That's why it's really to be more opportunistic in your specific domain of interest.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Paul, I have a question on how you get your quality folks to use augmented reality. Do they do it on their own? Is it like a tool in their toolbox, or is there like a requirement saying you have to use this in order to buy off a specific step?
It varies. Some use cases, it's like you can use it if you want, it's here, but others we've actually written command media that requires them to use it. Those are the ones that I view as being more sort of production-like. And so we've got use cases that are fully in production and some that are just like experimental. But there's two that I'm aware of that actually every aircraft now they're required to go check it out and use the tool. Yeah. I'm not sure the sort of crux to your question, but I haven't really found any pushback from using it from anyone. Of course, some people don't like the headsets. We all know that. But now we can use handheld tools. In fact, for the most part, I think people appreciate having the tool available because it makes their life easier. Obviously, there's some challenges with still UI and other, but for the most part, everyone wants to get a quality part out the door, and this helps everyone do that. So, yeah.
beyond vision, have you tried to blend reality with other forms of signals, say audio signals, say data from machines, for example, and bring that as a augmentation to workers? Or the
We have
interpretation
not.
of those signals as augmentation to the workers?
I know some colleagues in Siemens, they implemented a sound experience in the virtual reality to test some devices. In particular, my colleagues who are engaged in acoustics and NVH topics, and they had a very good results because it's for the customer. It's not only to design a machine; it's also to listen to the result. In particular, for drones, for example, or industrial machines. And yes, they have implemented the acoustic part of this. So that's why the multimodal. Let's call it multimodal. It's also the future.
So one topic I'm curious about from all of you is, speaking of immersive technology, haptic and audio feedback. Are we doing anything with the other senses?
Well, we've done work with the haptics side of things, just again from an experimental perspective, not doing anything at scale, just trying it out. Like multimodal is definitely very interesting. I think like we're not going to keep typing. This is like not going to happen. Like we're going to talking, like we're talking. So the AI will become the talking interface, the sound. That's why we were actually working with musicians. Actually, want to understand how sound works and how to kind of interface that, make it a good experience for everybody as well. So I think this idea of being the technology will catch up. I mean, we'll find a way, whether it's glasses or brain-computer interfaces or whatever goes on. That we will get there, we will want to be immersed in this, I think. So yeah, we're playing around with all of that, but it's quite a ways off in terms of doing anything that we have found at scale. That's all I can say. Yeah.
I know some colleagues, they tested the gloves, the haptic gloves. That's why you are in the metaverse and you can touch physically, not with a device. You can feel, and you can take some objects. It's pretty impressive, but the gloves, they are not super exciting at this moment, but in the future, probably, they will be well fitted, and that's why the immersion is even more with the sound, the gloves. And if you like science fiction, I recommend you a series. It's talking about that. It's called Upload. You can have it on Amazon Prime. Upload, they talk about these virtual interactions, and people are wearing a full suite of haptic suite to interact with other avatars. Well, it's funny and it's of course a vision, but I think it's part of the future also as a human to demand more interaction, physical interaction than just the vision. Yeah.
Thank you. Any last questions? I would like to just ask really quickly before we close, for those smaller manufacturers that are here today, what advice do you have as far as first steps they can take in AR adoption? And maybe what are your larger companies doing to help mentor some of these smaller manufacturers?
Yeah, I can take a little stab at that. So I'm just going to shamelessly plug the area. The Augmented Reality for Enterprise Alliance. If you're a small manufacturer, the joining fee is, I think, less than $1,000. And it's a whole wealth of information. There's webinars, research reports you get, opportunities to network with other small and large manufacturers. So Boeing's a member. There's probably other members here too, but it's a great resource. So it's very cheap to get started if you're small. The area, so it's the Augmented Reality for Enterprise Alliance. The website is thearea.org.
Thank you for sharing that resource. Yes.
I would mention MXD.
Yes. MXD.
Because look, we have big and small companies, we have
Yes.
academics, and we have service providers. You have a nice demo, so that's why you just go to the Siemens booth and ask my colleagues for help if you want to implement any AR, VR applications to your need, and of course, it's a place to be here.
Absolutely. Yes, on the back row. She asked if the resources are free.
I'm not responsible.
Hi. Yella Trask, VP of Membership and External Relations. So when it comes to small, mid-sized manufacturers, to be a member of MXD, there is no fee. We do work with you to have a digital assessment. So we do want to make sure we know, what level you're at. Now, I can't speak for our solution providers like Siemens or EY and what their fees are, but to have access to the demos and be part of the events, there is no charge for small, mid-sized manufacturers. We made that decision primarily as all of our members have mentioned. It's really tough for small, mid-sized manufacturers to know where to start. So we wanted to reduce those barriers.
Fantastic. Any parting words? Anything you'd like to close with? Any closing remarks
No,
from our
thank you.
panelists?
I hope we can do this again next year, maybe. It's great. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for participating.